Let's get to some Crimson and Cream news. Here we go.
As I said on my radio show last night, we made a decision to make a change at offensive coordinator and step Coach Finley along with Kevin Johns into new roles, working together. Coach Johns to coach our quarterbacks, and Coach Finley and the rest of the staff, Kevin included, putting together game plans, and we'll call it on game days. Incredibly hard decision on many levels, and then, a 10,000-foot lens, not so difficult. We're not playing winning football on that side of the ball, and thought a change would be appropriate, and change in leadership, a new voice, a new perspective, a new lens, strategy, game planning, sequencing, all of those things that go along with that position. As I said last night, this is not everything, all the blood doesn't fall at the hands of Coach Littrell. There's lots of different issues that have been problems for the lack of consistency, lack of offensive output, and but ultimately that goes along with that position.
It was only a week after Brent made a statement that he's never been a part of a mid-season coaching change. We see that right there. B, did you see this as a necessary change in the moment? And how much do you believe it was, let's just say, highly encouraged?
Oh, I mean, I think it was a necessary. I think it was necessary after the Tennessee game. I mean, we saw the ineptitude of our offense. We saw how they weren't able to move the ball against a decent defense. I mean, and we honestly saw it before that in our non-conference games before that. I don't think this was all Brent's decision. I think honestly there was pressure put on him, and it came from the top and not necessarily just from him. I think he sees it. I don't think he disagreed with it. I mean, he just said, you mentioned it earlier, he just said last week, I've never been part of a program that let a coach go in the mid-season. And then the next week, our offense looks like it did against South Carolina. Absolutely inept. Like, those guys didn't look like they knew what was coming. They didn't look like they had prepared at all. It honestly looked like my old, when I was in high school, I don't know if you ever went to this, Ant, but when I was in high school, we would go to the Mustang football field on Sunday afternoons and play football. And it honestly looked like that. Okay, we're drawing plays on our chest. Okay, you go this way, you go this way. I kind of felt like that was. It definitely needed to be done. It's needed to be done for several weeks. And I think he got pressure from the top. I sit in the brain trust. For those of you that don't know what the brain trust is, it's me, Ant Dalton, and a couple of our other friends that are all in this OU football chat. And so we chat all week long. We text all week long. And in the brain trust, I can't remember who posted it, but somebody posted on Twitter that, putting Joe John Finley in to call the plays when he was the co-offensive coordinator, it's kind of like pooping your pants and changing your shirt. Like, I don't know where we go next with it. Yeah. I kind of would have rather seen Kevin Johns get the play calling duties. Kevin Johns was really good when he was at Memphis. At Memphis, he had like the 20th ranked offense in the country 3 or 4 years ago. Then he went to Duke, had some really good success at Duke's head coach, then ends up getting hired, Elko, moving to Texas A&M.
Yep.
So that offense looked good enough for him to be promoted from Duke to Texas A&M, which is a big-time move for him.
Big bump in pay, too.
Yeah, definitely a big bump in pay because those guys are crazy. But I mean, I think it needed to happen. I don't really know what's next. I mean, Joe John Finley is not going to be our offense coordinator next year.
Okay.
I mean, we're going to do a national search. And honestly, at this point, I think BV's reputation is on the line at this point. BV's job at Oklahoma is on the line next year, I think. I think he's already on the hot seat, and we're moving into next year. I mean, our offense has been horrible. We're 128th out of 134 teams in total offense.
Yep.
107th in scoring offense. 114th in rushing offense. 116th in passing offense. I mean, literally, our scoring offense is our best quality of our offense, and we're ranked 107th in the country. Somebody on the radio this week said this is statistically the worst offense Oklahoma's had. I think they said since 1964. Think about that. None of us were born then, and I'm old. Obviously, I turned 48 today. I'm old, right? But I was born in 76.
Yeah.
That was still 12 years before I was born.
Right.
The worst offense that Oklahoma has had statistically since 1964. Ridiculous.
Well, and you know, you mentioned both of their names, Joe John and Kevin Johns. They're now the co-offensive coordinator with Joe John calling the plays. At least that's what Brent is saying right now. I think that switch to Kevin Johns would be much easier. You may say something, maybe you don't, maybe you split it up. You give a series to one guy and another guy takes a different series. I don't know how. I just think that you can't change everybody all at once in the middle of the season. You can get rid of one, but man, how crazy would that look if you know, of course, if Seth Littrell goes and Joe John go at the same time, and then we have people hurt. And it's kind of like the ice cream machine at McDonald's. It's hard to pinpoint why it doesn't work right now because there's so much wrong with it. And Dalton, let me ask you this: B saying that neither one of these guys are really the long-term solution. So, how wide do you cast that net to find the solution going into 2025?
I think at this level, especially, he's already got a short list. I think that most of the time, coaches at that level have a list of people in their back pocket because you never know what's going to happen. Yeah. There's been a lot of names thrown around, and a lot of lists I've seen have some similarities in them. You know, the Indiana offensive coordinator, UNLV offensive coordinator. I've seen Dan Mullen's name thrown around quite a bit.
I like that one.
There's a lot of similarities and a lot of lists, but at the end of the day, you have to hire somebody you know is going to be aggressive. You have to hire somebody you know is going to be able to put guys in spots to be successful. And I'm not going to. I don't want to throw Kevin Johns into the mix and say that he's not part of the future. He may not be the offensive coordinator next year, but that doesn't mean he's not going to be around and helping out. Joe John, he shouldn't be part of the future. And I want to say one of the points I wanted to make tonight. I don't always agree with everything Zach Sanchez has to say. I don't agree with all of his takes and all of his points. But I 100% agree with him on get rid of your emotions when it comes to the coaching staff in college football. It's a business. And even before the NIL, the coaching side of things has always been a business. It's nothing personal against Seth Littrell. And I think some people are like, oh, I can't believe you just let go of a guy. Seriously, some of the fans I've seen on Twitter for these Twitter likes trying to defend Seth Littrell and everything. I'm like, you know what? Then somebody has to take accountability for it, because I agree 100% with Unc. The change should have happened after Tennessee because the season's over. Season's over, and we only lost to Tennessee by 10 points, a team that's fighting for a playoff spot, and we couldn't find an offense. And we thought that maybe the change in quarterback would work. And I think all of us wanted to buy into that. But the fact is, the change didn't happen at the right spot. I'm over the excuses. Our offensive line is atrocious. Yeah. And at some point, Bedenbaugh needs to take some accountability for that. At some point,
100%.
He has to. But also, the offensive coordinator did not make any type of adjustment, didn't make any type of changes. He continued to put our tight ends in horrible spots. Brutal. It had to happen. I think the net is cast as wide as Brent wants to, but I think, as B said, he knows his job is on the line, because at this level, at this stage, at the University of Oklahoma, the expectation is you win, regardless whether it's the Big 12 or SEC. The expectation is you win.
It is.
As the offensive coordinator at OU, you do have big shoes to fill. I mean, I get it. Like 3 of our quarterbacks in the recent year have been in the top 4 have been in the top 3 or 4 for the Heisman. Listen, I get it. It's a new day and age in the SEC. You don't have to have in the SEC an offense that's going to score 65 points a game, which is what we've been used to. But at the same time, once things start going downhill, why do you not go to your impact players, your quarterbacks, your wide receivers, your running backs, and say, what do you do well? Like you look at it and say, what are we doing well? And what would be in your wheelhouse? And then you cater things to that. I feel like Seth Littrell just was like, no, this is what we're going to do. And, Dalton, you mentioned this earlier today when I was talking to you on the phone. We've said several times that we don't know that we felt like the offensive coordinator was getting a fair shake because we thought Brent Venables was too involved. At this point, you said it. I didn't say it. You said it. You were like, I'm wondering if he's been involved enough. This was the first time on this game last week against South Carolina was the first time we've seen him, really in the offense on the sideline. He had the iPad. He had everything he was going through. Like, he knows at this point, things are snowballing and rolling downhill. We've got to do something to make a change. He made the change. The net, like you said, is going to be cast as far as he wants to cast it. And I mean, there are some names, there are some dream names that I would love to go get. I would love to go get Joe Brady. I would love to go get Cliff Kingsbury. I'm not sure either one of those guys are leaving the NFL. I'm not the question asker on this podcast. Anthony normally is. But I'm gonna ask you guys this. There's a guy out west that's probably losing a job.
Absolutely.
There's a guy out west that's probably not going to be at that school this year.
Yep.
In Lincoln Riley, or next year in Lincoln Riley. I mean, if you saw his press conference, they were like, why is your offense not able to, sustain throughout the whole game? You can't win. He goes, I don't know. That's all he would answer. He's losing that job at USC after this year.
He's gone.
Now, the big rumors are he's going to the NFL. There's a lot of that talk. He's going to go be an OC in the NFL. He doesn't have to recruit. He doesn't have to do that stuff. Yeah. But, I mean, I hate the dude.
It's a business.
Unless he comes back and saves our offense, then I love him again.
It's a business. Honestly,
is he Dalton? Is he on your list?
My list, yes.
There was an article written in the Daily Oklahoman today, or the Oklahoman as it's called, talking about somewhat of a match made in heaven.
We'll see.
We have one of the best defensive minds in the country as our head coach. We get one of the best offensive minds in the country as our OC. Is he willing to take an OC job at this point in college football? I don't know. But as much as I can't stand Lincoln Riley right now, and as much as he pissed me off, another thing that pisses Brandon off, Lincoln Riley, as much as he pisses me off, I would get down on my hands and knees and beg him to come back if I thought it worked.
I would love to have him come back because people talking about how he didn't recruit. Okay, the one quarterback he didn't recruit here was Baker Mayfield. He got Kyler Murray. He got Jalen Hurts.
Yep.
He got Caleb Williams.
Yep.
Like, he can recruit. I think he
got Spencer Rattler. Spencer
Yeah.
Rattler's starting in the NFL. He got Spencer Rattler.
I think that he's found that it is a lot harder to recruit to LA than he thought it would be.
His $10 million and free use of a jet isn't what he thought it was going to be.
Yeah, he 100%. He's on my list, and I know I'm one of the few Oklahoma fans, but to all those Oklahoma fans, and again, this is different right now because the Oklahoma City Thunder are good again. It's the same thing. I would have absolutely said, arms wide open, Kevin Durant, come back home. Now I wouldn't now because Oklahoma City's good, but it's a business through and through, and you want to win. You want to be good. You want to get the best players. And he found a way to get the best out of other people too. I know that we talked about our run game and Bill Bedenbaugh. Like, it struggled a little bit early under Lincoln Riley, but it continued to get good. And our backs were always really good under Lincoln Riley. I mean, our run game was good. It was patient. It was creative. And so, yeah, no, I would. And another name that I'm not also opposed is Garrett Riley, his brother out at Clemson. I'm not opposed to him either. He's coached in a national title game. He's got a lot of the same mind that Lincoln Riley has. I wouldn't mind that either.
He's got connections with Brent Venables.
Yes, he does.
Clemson. My favorite part of game day is not the picks at the end. My favorite part of game day every single week are the stories told. Imagine the story of the prodigal son that leaves.
That's exactly what it would be. The prodigal son returns home.
And then comes back going, could I just coach the backs? No, you can actually be the offensive coordinator. I would like to do that. I think that would be an incredible story. There is some good news in what has been an abysmal season for Oklahoma. It seems that Deion Burks, Jalil Farouk, Andrell Anthony, and Nick Anderson all may have intentions to actually return next season, which is, I mean, a couple of those guys we talked about, like, they're done. They're going to the pros. It's judging from coach, it seems like that actually could be if they go get healthy. I mean, they said they want to come back some this season. How about not? Like, listen, the season's the season. Go get healthy and come back and whoop some A next year. That would be really cool.
That's going to make the difference. Like, if they decide they come back and play it all this year, and they burn some of those red shirts or whatever, then some of them may not be able to come back next year.
Yeah.
You can still get the injury hardship for the hardship red shirt, but if they all came back next year and we kind of got some things in line, I'd be super joyous.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the MidWeek Breakdown Podcast. Be sure to hit subscribe and check out the full podcast that drops every Wednesday during football season right here.